Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. This is my start of season updates part 5 and it's going to be the last one. And then I'll put all that lot away. Cluttering up my computer it is. Before we start, a couple of things that have opened recently. This one was a nearly made it in a video not that long ago. My Masdevallia ignea has finally not only got a bloom, but it's open. Well pleased with that. What colour is that camera showing that? Cameras are notorious at getting reds wrong. That's not bad actually. It's actually the true colour is deep velvety red with orange stripes. That's what it actually is with my eyes. Whether the camera's getting it or not I don't know. But anyway, a bud turned into a bloom, and as far as I can make out it's the only one. But at least it's one. One's better than none. And it hasn't done that for a very, very long time. So, in fact, I think the only time that bloomed was when I bought it, and it was in bloom when I got it, I think. This has opened now. So there's some precarious pots on that shelf at the moment. This has opened, and I don't know what the camera's going to do with that colour, but this keeps chopping and changing. It can't make up its mind what colour it is. Now this time that is distinctly pink. Last time it was white, and I think the time before that it was pink. It just comes and goes. This doesn't even belong to me anymore really, this is somebody else's, but that's what a bloom spike looks like on this. It opens, it develops fast, opens rapidly. Within a day, maybe 2 days at the most, all the blooms are open, so they don't open staggered. That also means they will all drop off over a day or two, and that will happen in about 10 days time, maybe 12. Depends what weather we get. If it's hot, less. If it's not so hot, more. So that's that one. It's opened up nicely. So I've got leaves getting hooked up with other stuff. Making the pot not go back where it's supposed to, no, stay. And I'll show you this. This Masdevallia had a bloom not that long ago, and that was its first bloom for a very, very long time. It's now bloomed again, and on that spike it's got another bud growing. Now I haven't seen this Masdevallia do that. I'm aware that they can, but in addition to that, sneaking up is yet another bud. So this has gone from not blooming for absolutely ages to now showing off. So that's good. I don't think there's anything else that's out of the context of this video. We'll have another look at this because I don't know how long these blooms are going to last, as it's the first time it's bloomed. But I'm pretty sure that I'm going to delicately untangle these blooms, and that will be my entry into the Orchid Society's virtual competition for this month, I think. So not all the buds are open yet, and I will have to delicately untangle the buds and blooms to separate these spikes out, because they're a bit, I mean, one of the spikes is crossing over right between two of the others. That needs to come out, and it might even need some small little bits of wire near the base of the spike to ease them apart. But out of all the things I've got, that's probably the best show at the moment. That's a reasonable blooming, although it's a smallish plant, and it's a nice looking plant. There's not a mark on those leaves. There's one leaf that's one of the little seedling canes has got a half leaf. There's something at some point in the long and distant past, something chomped it. Well, that's what it looks like anyway. But yes, so that's not really part of today, but that's the one I think I will use this time round. And we're limited to one, so I only need to have one. So I only need to think of one, and it'll just be whatever's the best thing I've got at the time, and that's probably going to be it, quite honestly. Right, finishing off is basically, I know there will have been some I've missed in these start season updates. I haven't done the Vandas. We'll have a look at them another time. They're a bit awkward to get down. Are they? Oh, I suppose they're not that awkward, are they? I don't know whether we looked at this one, because this got moved. This used to be up there, in which case it would have been done. But if we didn't, that's my Ansellia africana. This is coming into growth now. I've got 2 new growths coming on here, because that's been sitting doing nothing for a very long time. So it's coming into growth, and hopefully that will push some new roots out as well. It's got some roots, but I wouldn't say it's a good root system. Very strange. There's only one orchid in the whole genus. It's just the one. That's going to get reclassified. That'll get moved. That'll get shoved in with some other stuff and lose its originality. The Renantheras are all recently new, and we looked at them when they were bought, so I'm not going to bother going over those. Right, first Vanda then. Now this one had a bad time a while ago and lost a lot of its lower leaves. It never used to have a long bare stem like that, but it has now. It's got a kiki growing from the base that currently has, sorry, difficult getting this to the point where I want it. The kiki has its first new root growing directly out of the kiki, so that's a first. The roots on this plant haven't really started growing again this year yet. Let's just turn them off. Fans just came on. But this one does have a spike. I'm not going to be able to show it to you, I doubt. I'll point the leaf joint at the camera. Whether you get to see it or not, I don't know. But down in there is a spike. Whether you saw that or not, I don't know. So this one pushes out new leaves even through the winter, but it doesn't grow rapidly in the winter. Its root system currently looks dead. It's not. Lots of algae on the really old roots, but yeah, and that's the one that has the clustered bright orange flowers. So, yeah, I'm going to have to put them back because the big ones I'm going to get down in a minute will need somewhere to hang, because they'll all have to come down one at a time. Now this is the one that has the huge big purple flowers on, and the root system on here is bursting out everywhere. And if you look sort of in this section here, older roots and newer roots have just got new growth pushing out. Everywhere you can look there's new root tips. So this root system is really getting going now. I'm well pleased with that. Now this Vanda had a real serious problem, I think it was 2 winters ago, and it got to the point where it nearly got thrown out. Many of the leaves went like that. They haven't dropped off, they've remained on the plant, and they haven't got any worse. Now I can't believe it was cold, no different to any other winter. Got a lovely new growth coming out the stem here. Nice strong one, new one. But I'm about to do serious drastic action with this, because if you look at the stem from here upwards, from the top of the basket upwards, most of the good roots are above that point, yeah? And there's quite a lot of them. And the drastic action that's going to happen is I'm going to cut the stem down there and drop that basket off with all those old roots, which will leave it effectively bare rooted. And I'd prefer it like that. It'll go in the bucket easier, it'll hydrate better, and it will work harder on the newer white or whiter roots, and just get rid of these old dead things down through the middle of this basket. If I don't do something, you know, eventually this basket will fall apart and I will lose whatever's attached to it. So the basket's going to come off, and all the dead and old roots with it, on the grounds that there are lots. A lot of the roots will probably detach from the top of the basket and come off with the plant. But that'll be a fun session, won't it? So that's that one. As I say, I'll have to put these back up out of the way because there's more stuff to come down. Practically all of this session is going to be big stuff. So that's my Vandas. Where did that Africana thing go? there. As does the Renanthera. Right, that's that section done. Right, this is the difficult bit because each one's going to have to come down. They're big, so I'm going to have to stand well back, and they'll be difficult to get the whole plant in. This is the hercoglossum, and for those of you who watched the Sunday chat that was the actual live part that was filmed on the laptop, this is the one that was next to me that looked blue. It's not blue, it's pink. That's probably giving a much better colour now. This is really coming into its own now. There's still loads of buds. There's as many buds as there are blooms. This one may take over and become the one to go in the competition because it's a much more mature plant. The other one's quite a young plant. They're not so keen on that. They like their mature specimens that somebody's obviously kept alive for a long time. It shows a little bit more skill, I suppose. Anyway, we shall see, but that may well be the one that goes in. This just does well for me. It always has done. I bought it as a reasonable sized plant, but nothing like what I've got now. It's just got bigger and better over the years. So, one giant, Dendrobium hercoglossum. To tuck that. Right, the next one that's coming down is Dendrobium Nestor. Well, this is an anosmum cross with something, and I can never remember for the life of me what it's crossed with, but it's an anosmum cross anyway. One cane in bloom. It only grew one new cane last year, but it was as long as any cane has ever grown. So it was a good cane, and at the moment it's started this year's growth. Just one at the moment, and I don't see any signs of a second one, but who knows, you know. So that's that one. These blooms have probably got less than a week to go now. They're longer lived than some of the short-lived dendrobiums, but they're not exceptionally long-lived. I think I get about 3 weeks out of these, something like that. But again, it's a once-a-year spectacle, and then it's gone for the year. So that's that one. And it's one of the parents, the actual anosmum. I may not be keeping this. Oh, it takes up an awful lot of space, and it doesn't grow very well for me. But this is actually anosmum. Now this is a variable plant in the outside world. These are going over now, they're falling. I've lost a couple already, so they've only got a few days to go. And I was going to say there's no sign of a new growth, but there is. I don't know whether you probably won't be able to see it, but on the end of my finger at the base of that cane, it's just breaking the sheath, so there is a growth just starting. But later than the Nestor, but there's one there. Again, I could do with more than one. Now this last year grew a short cane. Didn't grow anywhere near as long as previous years. Yeah, it doesn't grow that well. I'm going to put this one down to the setback that I didn't know at the time, but apparently when I got this it had loads. If you look at the base, this area here, you've got lots of stumps where a load of canes were cut off. That was me. And they were old shriveled canes like that. Well, apparently anosmum really objects to having its old canes cut off, and it's probably something to do with when it gets its winter rest, it needs every bit of stored energy it can get, and you take the old canes off, you've removed half of its winter feed, basically its winter stored energy. That's the only thing I can think of, but we'll see how it goes. It's, as I say, didn't have a very good year last year really. Right, new stuff now. I hope they've got tags on. Yes, they have. This is my Victoria reginae, and it is a reasonable sized plant. When you go into the marketplace to try and buy one of these, you normally end up with twigs. You normally end up with, like my other one, things like that. that they sell as blooming size. And you're lucky if you get a cane that big sometimes. That new growth is mine, which is growing incredibly slowly, and I think that may be its final leaf. I don't know. But that was the previous one anyway, but that was a gift. That's a different thing altogether. So this is a major improvement. It's relatively damaged. It's been bashed around, but this cane is still growing. That's still got growth coming out of the top. And this one here is still growing. You notice the leaves near the end of the cane are curled over, slightly distorted. It's not getting enough hydration. And this other leaved cane here is also still growing. So I've got 3 canes that are growing, but they're not growing well. And they're not growing well because it didn't have that good a root system, and it needs to grow some more. It needs to establish a new root system, which it's not doing yet, but it will do. This is plenty big enough to bloom, but I don't think it will in the state it's in without a good root system behind it. But it could bloom. It's certainly big enough, and we've got an old, almost leafless cane here that's quite capable of blooming. But whether it will, fingers crossed and all that stuff. So that's that one. Everything crossed in that case, not just fingers. This was the other new one I got that not that long ago. I hope this has got a tag as well. Yeah, this is Dendrobium hookerianum. And it's one I'd never heard of, but I liked the look of the plant. Another quite long cane dendrobium. Canes on it are still growing. So I don't know what's happened to this, but it's either out of season because of where it's come from, or it didn't go dormant in the winter when perhaps it should have done, because these are last year's growths and they're still growing. Now that's unusual. My hercoglossum really is the only one I've got. But this is a black hair type, and they don't really shut down for the winter, given the right conditions anyway. But I've got 1, 2, 3 large canes that are all still in active growth. And even this little short one up here is actually growing. But this new growth it had this new growth on it when I got it, and it's progressed a little bit and stopped short, so it's aborted, but it has started another one. So it's and there's another one buried in there. So it's coming into growth, and we have a single new root so far. There will be more. But again, it's got to acclimatise. It's got to get used to the fact that it's now on a mount with some live moss and all that sort of stuff, which it probably wasn't before. Now this one won't have a tag on it, and I can't for the life of me remember what it's called, even though I know what it's called, and it doesn't belong to me. Insa's having this. This technically is a lithophyte. It's a rock grower, so it grows on the ground in rocky areas, and that might explain why it doesn't grow too well on a mount. Now it has all the hallmarks of getting far too much light. Well, lots of my plants had too much light this year, but I'm not sure this one did. But these kikis are absolutely enormous at the base of the plant, with good roots as well. They could be separated, not up to me. I mean, I've got to get it in a box that size basically with the kikis upright. But yeah, so I don't know whether that would do better in lava rock or something like that and mimic its growing conditions a bit better. But it's not a happy plant growing for me. It's not only a lithophyte, it's also a cooler grower. Yeah. So good luck with that. Right, and then over here we come to another one. Oh, that's not mine anymore. This is my primulinum. It's having its last 2 blooms at the moment, and that'll be it for the year. The other cane that bloomed, was it 1 cane? Yes, I think it was. That finished quite a while ago, but then it pushed out a couple of buds on a cane that had already bloomed, and that's unusual. So that's its last last fling for me anyway, because this is now somebody else's plant. But what's good about this plant is what's going on at the base. That's 4 good strong new growths coming out. That's 4 canes to bloom next time round. So that's going to be good. Just need to keep those canes growing, not damage them in transport, whenever that might be, and that should bloom well next year. So that's Dendrobium primulinum. And the reason that one's going and I'm keeping this one is that this was a gift from Alberto in Italy, and I want to keep this, even though it doesn't grow as well. But this is Dendrobium aphyllum, and this was sent as a single cane kiki, and I've grown it on, and it's currently got a nice strong growth coming, but only one at the moment. It's got plenty of time to start another one, but similar sort of thing as the one we've just seen, primulinum. It has a good show, very delicate, attractive blooms, slight fragrance, less than 3 weeks. Quite a bit less in some cases if it's warm. But I'm keeping that one because it was a gift, even though the primulinum's actually a better plant. That's how it goes. The decision was made before the primulinum decided to throw out all 4 of those new growths. Be tempting to keep it, but I've made my mind up, that's it. Now this didn't look anything like this probably last time you saw it. This is my glomeratum, and I got so fed up with the canes, one of which hooked right round the back of the mount, the other 2 went out there, and everywhere I tried to move it, it knocked things over or got hooked. And I got so fed up with it, I cut the long canes off, leaving the 2 short ones, both of which are growing. No sign of any new growths, no sign of any new roots. It's not a happy plant. But for me to be happy with it still in here, which I'd like it to be because the blooms are gorgeous and last ages, I needed to start it again basically. So it's got these 2 little growths that are growing, and no new growths and no new roots. So that's one to push on at some point as the year progresses. Now these are going to be fun, aren't they? Boy, are these going to be fun. These are the last 2, probably the biggest as well. Don't you knock anything over. This is Dendrobium chryseum. This is the big box orchid, the reason why the orchid's got that nickname. This was the one that took up all the box. Not quite sure what's going on with it, but the reason it was in the big box were the old canes, these canes, which were, oh well, probably nearly a metre long. They got chopped because I can't have canes going a metre in both directions. I can't have a plant that big. So I took the old stuff off on the grounds. Those canes had been there some time and hadn't bloomed, so I made the decision that they probably never will. So I cut them short. Now this section here, from here downwards, is last year's growth, and they didn't grow as well as they're capable of growing last year because I didn't have a decent root system. Sorry, that's the year before. I'm getting my we've rolled on into a new year and we're as far into it as May, and I'm still thinking of this year and last year the wrong way around. This lot up here are last year's growths. There are a lot. It's a massive bush, and some of these canes up here are still growing. Most of them have stopped growing now. So this has changed its mind from being a pendulous plant to being a more upright and sticking out plant. And that's its side view, its profile. There's not a bud on it anywhere, so there's no sign of any blooms. But although this is not going to be that easy to see, this is absolutely smothered in new growths, and the new growths have the most attractive sheaths on them before they burst out the top. I'll see if I can get near enough to. There's a cluster here. The colouring on this is gorgeous. It's a deep green with like purple markings, specklings, and well, the number of growths on here, that little area there's got 6, another one there, 7. There's loads coming out in here, 1, 2, 3, 4, And I suspect there's loads around the other side that I can't even see. Yeah, there's a whole set round here as well. So there's more than a dozen new growths starting up on there. It now has a reasonable root system. It's attached itself to the mount quite nicely. Lots of these roots are actively growing with growing tips, so it's expanding its root system and it's coming into a lot of new growth. But no sign of any blooms. So I don't quite know what's going to happen with this long term. It needs to bloom, so we'll see what it does. It's put on the growth. It's got a root system now, so we'll have to wait and see what that one decides to do. The last one, another biggie. This one's famous. Is it going to come down? Not knock everything down. Oof. Right, so this is my Dendrobium friedericksianum Hannah. It's the one that got the RHS award. Again, I've got canes crossing over each other with buds on, which makes them very easily broken. So we'll handle it quite carefully. The canes sticking straight up in the air, in the main, are last year's growths. So these things up here, they're unlikely to bloom, highly unlikely. The ones down here, from here downwards, are the year before's growths with the leaves on. Those are the ones that are absolutely smothered in buds at the moment. You can see there's buds all over the place. That's not as many buds as last year though. And then round the back of the plant, round here, are the old canes that are effectively done now. And unlike my hercoglossum, I'm not leaving them there too long. They've lost their leaves, they're never going to bloom again. So they have sort of served their purpose now. So I think that one needs a tidy up. But yeah, this one, I mean, that got its award at Malvern last year in June. So it was in full flower in the middle of June. We're only just getting into May at the moment, so I don't think we'll see our blooms on here for a while. There were 130 odd flowers on that when that got awarded. It's not going to be anything like that this time, I don't think. Just having a look round. It's an average of 3 buds per spike. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. There's around 30 spikes, I would say. There's more over here. 30 to 35 spikes times an average of 2 to 3 per spike. Not quite 130, is it? So not as many as last time, but nonetheless a lot. And this one is starting some new growths. It's actually starting quite a few new growths. This area here, I've got 1, 2, 3, there's 4 new growths there, another one there, 5, and then some a little bit more advanced, 6, 7, 8. There's about 8, maybe 9 new growths on there. So far, there may be more to come. So, yes, but this one does need a bit of a tidy up. Oh me, there's a mealybug. How dare you? One, singular. Is there such a thing as a mealybug? Can there be a mealybug without friends lurking somewhere? Highly unlikely that there's just one. Right, I shall put these all back later. I've got a dry throat today, so yes, so that's the last of this start of season updates. Took a lot longer in lapse time than I wanted. I wanted that done in March, really, March, early April, and it's run on a bit into May. It's not really the start of season anymore, is it? But nonetheless, the ones that we've just looked at are late starters relative to the season. So lots of things get going towards the end of March, beginning of April, but some things are actually 2 or 3 weeks after that to switch into their main growth. So Apologies for any that have been missed, and there are some, but we got most of them. I mean, we did all the mounts along here, most of which are no longer there because I had to put the chrysotoxin up there. So all the mounts that were up there are now somewhere else, but we'd already filmed them, so we did all that lot. We did all the top shelves across that section. We then did those 2 racks, all the mounts that were up there. Now those are different now, some of those have moved round, so one may have been missed or done twice. Then we did all the pots, that was part 4A and 4B, all the normal pots. The holy clay pots we didn't strictly speaking do, but they'd been done just before the start of season updates as a Sunday chat. I did all of my holy clay pots, I watered them and talked about them then. So they did get done, they just weren't called start of season updates. So that would be the Sunday chat near the start of the first start of season update. And now we've done that last sort of rack down through there. So we've covered most of it. And that took 5 videos this time, which isn't too bad. The last time I tried to do that, it took 9. And they were all well over half an hour. They were all like 40 minutes, 45 minutes. And that's my time as well, don't forget, to film it all and process it all. So that's the end of those now. Whether I decide to do an end of season update, I'm not sure. Because that's when we would like revisit, you know, and like perhaps think about, well, at the start of season this had a couple of new growths, they've matured into long canes. I may do that, I may not. I might just pick on some that show a hell of a season's growth, if you know what I mean. Because like a Masdevallia is not going to look much different. It will lose a few leaves during the season, especially in my summer, and it will grow some new ones. So at the end of the season it often doesn't look much different to the start. So they don't make a very good comparison. And don't forget we've got our project orchids, which will be coming up again. Yeah, we've only done the first part of those, the project orchids, where we sort of benchmarked them all and looked at them all in detail. Next time we will be comparing to what they look like then to what they look like now, whenever now is. I've got a feeling that was... Did I do them in February or March? I'll have a look. But the project plants may be coming up soon to start them off. There was 4 parts. Obviously I don't want one after the other. I want a bit of a gap in between with some other stuff. But anyway, that's today's video. The last of the start of season updates. I have to think of something else for tomorrow now, won't I? But I've had a lazy day today. I've watered nothing. That's okay. I've caught up with the essentials, and tomorrow it will be a pot watering day. My RO unit's running at the moment, has probably overflowed while I've been nattering away. And yeah, it's just, you know, done some shopping. I had to go out and do some food shopping. It's funny, I don't know, it's never been like that before, but when I go out and do my shopping now, when I come home I feel dirty. Obviously I'm not, but it's in the mind, you know. But there's lots of stuff gets washed when I come back home anyway. Get that out of the blinking way. So, see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.